This audio is for educational purposes only. I hope this will add light to your journey. Please share this audio to your loved ones, family and friends. Thank you.
Love is Letting Go of Fear, 3rd edition. Jerry Jampolsky. Acknowledgements. I would like to express my deep and loving gratitude to Dr. William Thetford, for his continued support and encouragement, and the many hours he contributed to modifying and adding content to this book. In addition, I wish to give my warm, heartfelt thanks to Jules Feingold, Hugh Prather, Mary Abney, and Diane Cirencione, Ph.D. The 12 lesson titles in this book are quotations from A Course in Miracles. Preface 2011. When I was 54 years old, I embarked on a miraculous journey that began with the publication of my first book, Love is Letting Go of Fear. In fact, in many respects, it was a miracle the book was ever written at all. Dyslexic since childhood, I entered the University of California at Berkeley in 1943, knowing that a dumbbell English course was in my future. I struggled through it, and received a D, and on the final day of class, my professor said to me, "Jampolsky, I don't know what you're going to do in life, but, for God's sake, don't ever try to write a book." I was 50 years old before I decided to no longer give my power away to other people's judgments about my limitations, and do what I had been told was impossible, and write a book. I am still in awe that this little book has sold millions of copies, and been translated into dozens of languages. Miraculous. Absolutely. What's more, at age 85, the journey and the miracles continue for me. Since 1979, the book has grown wings of love that have taken it to just the right people, at precisely the right time in their lives. It seems as though the angels have been hovering from above, guiding it to those in need of its simple message. Over the years, I have been fortunate enough to hear from readers who have opened their hearts and changed their lives. Their stories are, to me, miraculous, and I would like to share a few with you that have come my way. The first edition of Love is Letting Go of Fear had been out for several months and was selling steadily, but modestly, when I received a telegram from a person I had never met. His name was Orson Bean, a talented actor and television personality. The telegram simply said, "Watch Johnny Carson tonight." Although I rarely stay up late, I did that night. At one point, during the interview, Mr. Bean pulled a copy of the book from his pocket, saying that it had changed his life. From the next day onward, Love is Letting Go of Fear began its climb up the bestseller list. Since then, whenever people ask me who my public relations person is, I always answer, God. A number of years ago, at an event hosted by the Center for Attitudinal Healing, I was approached by a woman who shared the following story. Many years earlier, my son Lee and her son had been close friends in high school. Lee threw a party one night at my office. When I was out of town, there was music and alcohol, and the party got a little wild. At one point, her son became a little unsteady on his feet and crashed into some bookshelves, whereupon a book toppled from the shelf and hit him in the head. The book was Love is Letting Go of Fear. He was attracted to the illustrations and decided to take it home. When his mother found the book in his room, a month or so later, she decided to read it. At that time, she was going through some major life challenges, and she said the book changed her life, and she wanted to thank me for writing it. All these years later, a book will come to a person when he or she is ready for its message, and often, it will come in an amazing way. The truth also comes to people, ready or not, in some pretty amazing ways. I decided to phone my son Lee, just to remind him that the truth will always come out eventually, even if it's years and years after the fact. It has also been gratifying to learn that love's influence has traveled the globe. When teaching in Iran several years ago, we were surprised and delighted to learn that Love is Letting Go of Fear, and 5 of our other books, had been translated and published in Farsi, and were circulating throughout the country. Although these were clearly bootlegged editions, we decided not to make an issue of that fact. It is more important to us that love's message reaches those who need it. Following a lecture at the University of Tehran, an Iranian professor shared his personal story with us. He and his wife had had a most difficult marriage, marred by constant arguing. At wit's end, he was seriously considering divorce. Although he loved his wife deeply, he yearned for a more peaceful existence, and simply couldn't envision a calm relationship with her. One day, while browsing in a bookstore, he came across a pirated copy of Love is Letting Go of Fear. As he spoke to us, he spread his arms wide, and, smiling, said that simply reading the book was the first step toward saving his marriage. Diane and I made many trips to Russia, when it was still the former Soviet Union. During one of our visits to Moscow, as was typical at that time, we were assigned a translator and a guide from the Soviet Tourist Bureau. What we didn't know then was that they actually were KGB agents. We brought with us a number of Russian-language editions of both Love is Letting Go of Fear and a mini course for life. Each day, our translator asked us for a few copies, which we gladly turned over to her. As the days passed, she asked for more and more copies. Our supply was starting to run low, so we finally asked her where all the books were going. She explained they were being used to teach English to other translators, agents, because the concepts were so new and interesting to them. Needless to say, we were delighted that the study of English was being supplemented by the study of practical spiritual principles that emphasized love and forgiveness. Love is Letting Go of Fear has found its way into the hands of people of all ages and from all walks of life. Following a talk in Florida recently, a 10-year-old girl spoke with us. Her parents' decision to divorce had been deeply upsetting and very confusing. Looking for someone to blame, she wasn't sure which parent to be angry with, so she decided to be angry with them both. One afternoon, at a friend's house, she saw a copy of Love is Letting Go of Fear and borrowed it. The book's message brought her peace of mind, even though her parents continued to threaten each other with divorce. Eventually, she gave the book to her parents to read, in the hope it would help them heal their relationship. She then introduced her mother and father, who were standing nearby, still married, and who enthusiastically validated the daughter's story. An inmate in Arizona wrote me an angry letter, claiming that Love is Letting Go of Fear was the worst book he had ever read. He went on to say that if I were in solitary confinement and had been beaten by guards, I would never be able to forgive. He ended his letter with the accusation that I must be some flaky shrink from California, who couldn't possibly know what real life was all about. I responded, not with self-righteous indignation, but with an open-minded, non-defensive letter, and so began a lively and mutually rewarding correspondence. While on a lecture tour in Arizona, I arranged to visit him in prison. During our meeting, he told me that after rereading the book, he realized it wasn't prison that kept him in bondage. It was the fear he carried in his own mind that was keeping him incarcerated. Some time later, following his release, he began the process of forgiving the significant people in his life. This enabled him to launch a vocation of working with people who had been incarcerated and who were facing death from terminal illness. After a recent lecture on Maui, a woman came up to us in tears. She explained that in 1980, her husband had had an affair. Her anger had been like molten lava, and she had bought a gun with the intention of shooting him, a plan that would have irrevocably changed her life. The same day, a friend gave her a copy of Love is Letting Go of Fear. Despite her pain, she read the book and abandoned her dangerous impulse, and altered the course of her life in a positive direction. A man attending a workshop conducted by the Center for Attitudinal Healing shared the following story. As an adult, he made the upsetting discovery that his father had been a member of the Nazi Party and served in the SS during World War II. Reading Love is Letting Go of Fear had helped him take the necessary steps to get past the shame and anguish, and forgive his father for being an active participant during such a cruel period of history. As a result, he decided to make a radical change and gave up his business for a very different kind of vocation. Of all things, he became a clown, explaining that the best way he could think of to heal the world was by making his life's work about bringing other people joy and laughter. He described his costume to me, including a huge pair of extra long shoes. When I asked him why the extra long shoes, his immediate reply was, "So my father can walk along with me in my shoes as we heal the world together." 2009. Alone. This book and its mighty wings landed in Mongolia, Cameroon, Nigeria, Mali, Romania, and so many other places. A woman in Mongolia went through the experience of her deeply loved brother committing suicide. It was a devastating experience that left her deeply depressed. She wrote that after reading Love is Letting Go of Fear, she found the tools to heal herself, and her life changed. Since then, she has started the Center for Attitudinal Healing, Mongolia, and wants to devote her life to helping others as a way to continue to heal herself. A man in Cameroon, Central Africa, wrote that he had developed 3 businesses and was quite successful. He had a wife and 2 children. He became addicted to drugs, and his wife and children left him, and his businesses collapsed. In his words, he became a derelict. One Sunday, while taking a walk on an out-of-the-way country road, he came across an old man selling used books from a small cart. He saw the title, Love is Letting Go of Fear, and with the very last few coins he had, he purchased the book. It became like a Bible to him, and he proceeded to read it more than a dozen times. He stopped using drugs, and his wife and children returned to him. He went on to start a health clinic for her, and a new business for himself. He said he was so transformed by the concepts and experience of the book that he has started attitudinal healing support groups, and is now in the process of starting a center for attitudinal healing in Cameroon. The former ambassador to Mexico from Nigeria visited the Chicura in Mexico City, the first center for attitudinal healing in Mexico. To date, more than 20 Mexican cities have centers or groups. There, she located this book, and found it began to nourish her spiritually. As an elder stateswoman in her country, known for her work in anti-corruption, she became convinced that the concepts in the principles of attitudinal healing were a viable way for an attitudinal shift in her country. She went on television and spoke about this, generating a huge response nationwide and encouragement to go further. She has since incorporated the Center for Attitudinal Healing, Nigeria, and the work continues to grow. Love is Letting Go of Fear was written not only for you, but also for me. I still do my best to apply its practical principles to my own life. I find them even more timely, valid, and helpful today than I did 32 years ago. The lessons in Love is Letting Go of Fear are grounded on the very same principles from which attitudinal healing has evolved. It was in 1975 that I helped found the first Center for Attitudinal Healing, located in Marin County, California. In 1981, Diane Cirencione, Ph.D., came into my life, and we later married. Diane has been both an angelic partner and a teacher of love, peace, patience, gentleness, and forgiveness. After 30 years, the principles in Love is Letting Go of Fear are still indispensable to us. As a couple and as individuals, we continue to nurture a relationship of equality and unconditional love. Attitudinal healing has become our life work together, and has given us the opportunity to meet and speak with people in more than 50 countries throughout the world. Attitudinal healing is based on the principle that it is not other people or situations that ultimately cause us to be upset. Rather, it is our own thoughts and attitudes about those things that are responsible for our distress, and the actions we take as a result of those thoughts and attitudes that can hurt us. Healing results. When we concentrate on changing our own attitudes, rather than trying to change the attitude of others. Thus, the goal of attitudinal healing is self-healing. In the face of each life challenge, regardless of the source, attitudinal healing is not a religion or religious. It is a practical spirituality that supports and is compatible with all faiths and belief systems. People from many cultures, faiths, and denominations, as well as those who follow no faith at all, are welcome to use the principles of attitudinal healing. The first Center for Attitudinal Healing, founded in Marin County, Northern California, began with support services for children with catastrophic illness and their families. All direct services are free of charge. Over the decades, the centers have run and developed support groups for children and adults facing illness, loss, and grief, as well as school programs focused on violence prevention, through peer support and award-winning home and hospital visitation programs. Support groups for men and women continue, as do groups for bereavement and spousal and caregiver support. During challenges, crisis, and change, workshops for businesses that wish to apply the principles of attitudinal healing in the professional environment are also being offered. At the core of these principles is forgiveness. Forgiveness does not mean condoning or agreeing with a horrendous act. It is a decision to no longer attack one's self. Forgiveness is, quite simply, the decision not to suffer. To forgive is to make the decision to be happy, to let go of judgments, to stop hurting others and ourselves, and to stop recycling anger and fear. Forgiveness is the bridge to compassion, to inner peace, and to a peaceful world. It is my hope that forgiveness becomes as important, as involuntary to us, as breathing. To my utter amazement, attitudinal healing is now worldwide, in hundreds of locations, consisting of centers and support groups in 30 countries on 5 continents. Love is letting go of fear has served, and still serves, as the cornerstone of our work. It is our hope that this little book will continue to find its readers, one at a time, when the time is just right. It is our prayer that as we heal our own minds of fear and negativity, the world we see will be healed along with us. Jerry Jampolsky, Sausalito, California, January 1, 2011. Author's note: we teach what we want to learn, and I want to learn to experience inner peace. In 1975, the outside world saw me as a successful psychiatrist who appeared to have everything he wanted. But my inner world was chaotic, empty, unhappy, and hypocritical. My 20-year marriage had recently ended in a painful divorce. I had become a heavy drinker and had developed chronic, disabling back pain as a means of handling guilt. It was at this time that I came across some writings entitled A Course in Miracles. The course could be described as a form of spiritual psychotherapy that is self-taught. I was perhaps more surprised than anyone when I became involved in a thought system that uses words like God and love. I had thought that I would be the last person interested in such writings. I had been extremely judgmental toward people who pursued a spiritual pathway. I saw them as fearful, and I believed they were not using their intellect properly. When I first began studying the course, I had an experience that was surprising, but also very comforting. I heard an inner voice. Possibly it would be more accurate to say, an impression of a voice, which said to me, "Physician, heal thyself. This is your way home." I found the course essential in my struggle for personal transformation. It helped me recognize that I really did have a choice of experiencing peace or conflict, and that this choice is always between accepting truth or illusion. The underlying truth for all of us is that the essence of our being is love. The course states that there are only 2 emotions, love and fear. The first is our natural inheritance, and the other, our mind manufactures. The course suggests that we can learn to let go of fear, by practicing forgiveness, and seeing everyone, including ourselves, as blameless and guiltless, by applying the concepts of the Course to both my professional and personal life. I began to experience periods of peace that I had never dreamed possible. I would like to add that I still get depressed, and at times feel guilty, irritable, and angry. These moods now last for only brief periods, whereas they used to last for what seemed eternity. I used to feel that I was a victim of the world I saw. When things would go wrong, I would blame the world, or those in it for my misery, and feel justified in my anger. Today, I know I am not a victim of the world I see, and therefore tend to take responsibility for whatever I perceive, and for the emotions I experience. We are all teachers of each other. I have written this book because I believe that in teaching what I want to learn, inner peace, I can become more consistent in achieving it for myself. This approach is not for people who want gurus, since it views everyone equally, as both a teacher and a student. As each of us moves toward the single goal of achieving peace of mind for ourselves, we can also experience the joining of our minds that follows the removal of the blocks to our awareness of love's presence. Together, therefore, let us demonstrate in our own lives this statement from A Course in Miracles: teach only love, for that is what you are. Jerry Jampolsky, Tiburon, California, May 1, 1979. Love is the way I walk in gratitude. Foreword. Love is letting go of fear, is the sweetest, gentlest healing melody to my heart. Its principles have had a profound effect on me. It has influenced how I see and hold myself, how I conduct my relationships with others, and how I look at the world. It has helped me find a sense of inner peace, joy, and happiness beyond what I had ever experienced before, or ever thought possible. This amazing book for personal growth has been helping millions of people around the world since it was first published in 1979. After 30 years, and even more than before, it offers a timely tonic in these complex and often troubling times. I love the straightforward practicality of the lessons and the thought-provoking illustrations that make the book cross-culturally appealing and so reader-friendly for, literally, all ages. Jerry's writings have a heartfelt honesty, simplicity, and integrity about them, just like him, which really works for me when dealing with complicated issues in everyday life. The inclusion in this new edition of how people can deal differently with financial insecurity and the fear that comes with it is always timely. Especially useful are Jerry's thoughts on how applying attitudinal healing principles can help get us out of a state of victimhood, no matter what has happened to us. Living these principles has proven to me that I can choose to be in a state of inner peace and outer harmony, even when there is chaos going on all around me. This revelation was life-changing for me, as it will be to many readers, regardless of their politics, culture, or faith. Whether it is my music, my band, my family life, my audience, or my business, when all's said and done, it is my relationships, and how I handle them, have become the top priorities in my life, along with my spiritual growth. Seeing the value of releasing guilt and grievances about myself and others has opened up new vistas for me. I love quoting Bishop Desmond Tutu, who said, "There can be no future without forgiveness." I have been fortunate to know Jerry and his partner and spouse, Dr. Diane Cirencione, for a number of years, and it has been inspiring for me to witness how diligent they are in practicing these principles in their own lives. It is my hope that this treasure of a book will empower people to heal all of their relationships, to motivate themselves, and inspire others to make a difference, and to bring love and light into a world that is suffering in darkness. So, if you wish to find a way of removing all the barriers that block you from experiencing love, if you wish to learn how to create a future that is different from the past. If you wish to learn to take responsibility for your own happiness and have a lasting sense of inner peace, then read on. Peace. Carlos Santana.